Hi guys, it's ASBYT and this is the Huawei Mate X2. In my opinion, from a hardware point of view, the best smartphone / tablet available right now. I mean, how cool is that? But whatever your opinions on this political matter, there's no denying ever since the relationship breakdown between the US and China and Huawei and subsequent Google bans, it's always been the software side of things that have left many customers, consumers, you guys, wondering whether to buy Huawei smartphones or not. The good news is there are ways around this potential problem if you are desperate for this brilliant piece of hardware, and I'll explain exactly what I mean shortly. But first, let's look at the hardware, and if you enjoy this video and want to see more, drop a like and sub if you're new. So straight away, Huawei, of course after watching my video on their last folding phone, the XS, have switched their latest folding device from folding outwards to folding inwards. A far better idea in my opinion for protecting the delicate display. The decision to do that definitely wasn't because of my video. But they have made the change and it's a welcome one. It was one of the main reasons why I thought the Galaxy Z Fold 2 from Samsung was the better option last year. Crucially though, this year, when folded, the Huawei Mate X2 and its 6.45 15:9 90Hz OLED outer display resembles a standard normal phone. And this was one of my biggest negatives of that Galaxy Z Fold 2. The outer display was just too narrow to fully function as a normal phone, which I personally think with these sorts of devices, it should be phone first, tablet second, because I would use this probably as much, if not more, than actually diving in and using the inner display for media consumption, etc. So the X2 Fold is spot on here. The outer display is interrupted by a dual camera cutout, providing a 16 megapixel shooter and a time of flight sensor. Now I've said this before, such is the quality of smartphone camera software technology these days for making those lovely blurred background, portrait shots, etc. From a single lens, I don't really feel the trade-offs from interrupting that display from having the dual cutout outweighs the time of flight sensor's capabilities. I personally would prefer to see them go with just a single camera cutout to have more display, but that's just me. If we flip to the back, we have a quad camera setup consisting of a 50 megapixel primary, a 60 megapixel ultra wide and 2 telephoto lenses, one with 3 times and the other with 10 times optical zoom and periscope in design. Now, Huawei phones over the last few years have been famed for having some of the very best cameras around, and the Mate X2 is no different. I mean, it's basically the same setup as their other flagship phones like the P40 Pro Plus, etc. So excellent, but not necessarily the main reason why you would probably would go and buy this phone. This reason, of course, is, and this is something that you're always told when you're growing up as a kid, it's what's inside that counts. So when you do unfold the Mate X2, you're greeted with an 8-inch display with pretty much square design. It's a really nice, bright and vibrant, flexible OLED panel, and it's also 90Hz, so everything feels really nice and smooth when you're scrolling and consuming content, and the actual fold crease is really hard to see. You can see it, but it certainly doesn't take away from the experience, and the hinge is really spot on. It feels really nice and durable, a real hefty clamp to it, very secure. Good job. Now you may have noticed so far that when it's actually folded outwards, there's an angular design to it where the left-hand side, as you look at it, is actually ever so slightly thinner, which according to Huawei is for better weight distribution, so it feels lighter when holding it with one hand, which is great if you're right-handed like me, but if you're left-handed, it has the opposite effect. It actually feels heavier. So great if you're right-handed, not so great if you're a lefty. Now the extra screen real estate comes in really handy for multitasking and just for anything that would be better suited for a larger display, using maps, viewing photos and emails, etc. The square shape, like with the Galaxy Z Fold 2, still sometimes feels a little bit off for watching movies, for example, as you will still get black bars on 16:9 content, obviously, and there are some apps that work fine, but others that aren't yet quite compatible with this square ratio either. I'm sure that will improve over time as developers will continue to update their software to include foldables such as these on their apps. But that brings me on to the big talking point again here, and that is software as a whole. So this foldable is running on Android 10 with EMUI 11 over the top. It's not my favourite software, and it still has a little way to go for me to match the likes of OnePlus's Oxygen OS, Samsung's One UI, and good old plain stock Android from Google, of course. But it is improving year on year, and with the Mate X2's 5nm Kirin 9000 chip and 8GB of RAM, it absolutely crushes the day-to-day tasks, and such things as gaming on this tablet-like display is an absolute joy. But as stated, unless you use the workaround, which we'll touch on, there's currently no Google apps on here, no Google services, no Google Play Store, so you download your apps in a different way and certain things are not compatible. So if you don't go down the teased workaround, what do you actually get standard on the phone? Well, firstly, you have Huawei's app gallery. Tons of apps, covers a lot of bases, but not all. To top this up, you can use Huawei's Petal Search feature, a really handy tool for searching for and downloading nearly all the apps you're missing from the app gallery, including some Google ones, but still not all. The final way to use the remainder of Google apps that aren't available is, of course, to use a browser shortcut. Safe to your home screen, like an app, usable, fine for most people, but not ideal. If you did want fully functioning Google services, Google Play Store, all the Google apps that you would potentially want to use, there are ways of doing it, and there are plenty of tutorials here on YouTube where you can do it now without having to use a USB dongle, connecting it to a computer, etc. You can do it just from downloading 1 or 2 different apps, and it is very simple. I have used it on a couple of my Huawei P and Huawei Mate series phones, and Google works completely fine. So it is an option you can go down. It's not something that Huawei actually recommend, but if you're desperate for Google apps, then it works. Of course, do your own research, do your own due diligence, just like you would downloading any app or APK on an Android phone from an unknown source. Now, battery life may be a slight concern here. We do have a 4500 mAh battery cell, but it does have to power this large 90Hz display, the other 90Hz display on the other side, both together. And I haven't been able to fully test it, but I would imagine it's something that you may not be the most excited about in terms of its performance. Luckily, you do have 55 watts fast charging with it, which of course comes available inside the retail box, and Huawei have been known for having really great fast charging in their recent set of devices. So charging speeds, if you do need to top it up, are going to be great. So it may alleviate some of that problem for you. Side-mounted fingerprint scanner on the power button works really nice and snappy. And the stereo speakers are really impressive also, adding to that content consumption experience. So is the Huawei Mate X2 currently the best foldable smartphone available on the market right now? In my opinion, from a hardware point of view, absolutely 100%. It's a fantastic device. It's incredibly futuristic. It feels very solid. It gives you great options to use as a normal phone and a tablet all at the same time. A joy to use, in fact. I was one of the early skeptics about foldable devices. I didn't really see where they were going to go with it. It didn't seem practical. They've absolutely nailed that with this. And if they can possibly shrink it down a little bit in terms of thickness and weight without losing that added battery life, then I think we could be onto something with absolutely huge potential if they can get the price right going forwards. I think we could generally see a move away from standard smartphones. I really do. But from a software point of view with the Mate X2, I'm still a bit split. I can't openly say for everyone it's great, because a lot of people won't want the faff of downloading Google services yourself or simply going without it. But on the flip side, if you are somebody who loves to have a tinker around with their devices and want to customize it in your own way, or indeed don't use Google services, because a lot of people actually don't use Google apps, then this is a fantastic device for you if you can afford the hefty price tag. Like and share if you enjoyed the video and found it helpful. Subscribe if you're new to the channel and love everything tech. I'll love you and leave you. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.